And it's your host, Yasker, again on the Stani Army verdict. Well, it's not your normal Stani Army verdict this time. You could say it's a Stani Army and Barmy Army verdict on the Stani Army channel. Um, we've got three guests with us. First of all, we've got Adam from the Barmy Army. How you doing, Adam?
Thanks for having me. Very well, thank you.
And also we've got Hamza. How you doing, Hamza?
Hey guys, very well, thanks.
And Dr. Akbar, as you normally see him with me.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Yeah, all good, all good. So today we're going to review the entire test series. We will be taking some comments, but not also be warned that we won't be taking too many comments because we've got quite a bit to go through in 1 hour. We're going to look at the first test, which was at Old Trafford, first of all. So looking at the first test, Pakistan batted first, and they amassed 326. Shan Masood got 156. He was dropped twice early on, though he did get a substantial score. And it seemed like, the Anderson hoodoo that from 2016 was finally over because he batted quite well against Jimmy Anderson. And then Babar Azam, 69 not out overnight after the first day. Pakistan looked pretty good at the end of the first day. But I'm going to go to you, Doctor, first about that. Babar fell early on that day. How crucial do you think that moment was?
Yeah, pretty important. I mean, obviously, look, everyone knows he's our best batsman by a mile. Obviously, not in this innings because Shan got his 150. So it was quite a big moment. I think that kind of Shadab came in. I know you've put on the screen there Shadab's 45. I think that was really important because we were losing momentum and we were losing impetus and we were losing wickets soon after Babar got out. So he got. I mean, I actually made a note. He got some really good balls in this series. I think he got one from Anderson in this test. He got another good one, I think, from Broader in one of the other tests. So he was a little bit unlucky he was unfortunate to get some really good balls in this series, which is why unfortunately wasn't able to kind of kick on and get himself to 100 at any point. So big moment, but I think if given that it wasn't particularly easy conditions to bat in, I think if you offered Pakistan 326 on the first day, I think they'd probably have taken it, to be honest.
No, I think they would have. I mean, Adam, Pakistan getting 326. That wicket, it wasn't like the flattest wicket, and there was one point where, as I said, a couple of drop catches as well. They could have cost England quite badly, couldn't they?
Yeah, I think we were a bit worried when the catches went down because it looked like Pakistan with Babar batting really well, looking class on that first day, that Pakistan could have gone on to get a big total. But obviously, unless you get 350 plus, 375 plus, you're not really taking the game away from the opposition with 3 innings in the match to play. So England were probably quite relieved in the end to get Pakistan out for 326, even though it looked like a decent score on what was a tough wicket. I think England probably would have thought that they, over the course of the game, could make a good game of it at least. And obviously, it turned out to be a thriller in the end.
Yeah, definitely. Hamza, you had a right smile on the thrill at the end. We're going to come to that at the end, yeah? We're going to come to that at the end. That Shadab picked up on. It was a rash shot after he batted really well. Pretty crucial, wasn't it, at the end?
Yeah, it was interesting, Adam saying, if it was a 320 score, it could have been a bit more. I was actually of the same opinion. Dr. Akbar saying, 320 is a decent score. At the end of the first day, we were in a really comfortable position. When you've got your best batsman on 60-odd not out with another batsman at the other end, you're basically looking at a 400 score. And if you don't get to 400, generally you'd think all right. And we didn't even get close to, we didn't even get 350 in the end. So I was actually really disappointed after that first innings. I know we sort of fought back because after Babar got out, there were a couple of quick wickets, and then Shadab sort of got, what did he get, 40-odd or something? I can't remember what he got, but he got a few runs.
45.
Yeah, and the tail didn't do anything. Our 9, 10, and 11, they don't really do anything anyway. So that 320 odd score, I was personally quite disappointed in that because after day one, that was the hard work. I thought, day one, you're the away team, you ain't got no match practice really. England have had 3 tests against the West Indies, and after day one, you're quite comfortable. So I was quite disappointed with that score. Although it could have been even worse if Shadab didn't sort of play a little cameo.
Mm-hmm. We're going to move on to the England innings, but just for perspective, Shadab and Sean put on 105 as a partnership. Just remember the number 105 because we're going to come back to that number in a bit. So, Adam, England batting 219. Pope, that's one of the innings where I think Ollie Pope looked most comfortable this summer. I think he had one good innings against West Indies as well, if I remember right on top of my head. But that was a fantastic batting innings when England were, they were struggling, weren't they? If I remember right, I've got it here.
12 for 3, I think, when a Bass got Stokes, I think it was 12 for 3.
And 62, another stage. Ollie Pope really showed quality there.
Yeah, that was like you say, massively needed for England. They were really struggling with, I think, Sibley, Burns, and Ruti had all gone quite cheaply, and we looked in real trouble. Obviously, 326 for target from the first innings set, and to be 12 for 3 looked ominous. And Ollie Pope came out and showed his class on the South Africa tour earlier this year. People were really excited about him. He looks like. He makes it look effortless, really, and the pressure didn't get to him on his debut, and he came out in that first series in South Africa and played brilliantly. And a lot of England fans are really excited about the prospect of his development. He reminds everyone of Joe Root when he first came into the side, just carefree, making it look easy. And it's those sorts of moments where your team really needs it that obviously sets you up for a decent England career. So really important.
He bats a bit like Ian Bell, though. He reminds me of Bell a bit as well. Kind of really, very technically very, very correct. A difficult player to get out.
Absolutely.
Very comfortable. So, along with Ollie Pope, though, there was Butler with 38, which was a very, very good innings. And Wokes got 19. Archer got 16 and Broad got a 29. Them runs have been underrated because coming towards the end of the match, that 50-60 runs that the tail sort of got together proved absolutely crucial. Hamza, Yasser was the only effective bowler in terms of success. But there was a moment during that test match which had every single cricket fan on their feet. It had social media going absolutely ballistic. Everything just went sort of stood still. Abbas to Stokes. How good was that ball?
Yeah. No, that was a great ball. It was obviously exaggerated by Stokes coming down. Because I just think if you stayed at his crease, it would still be a great ball, but it was because he was coming out at him. It's sort of, you sort of look at someone like Abbas, he doesn't have the pace to sort of trouble you. So he's got to be really clever. So usually if the batsman sort of charging you or coming down the crease, you just bowl him a bouncer and try and sort of tell him, look, get back at your crease, give him some verbals. But Abbas can't do that. He bowls about 80, 81 miles an hour. So yeah, that was a beautiful ball, sort of right on round. Sort of coming in and straightening, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, but we didn't get to see much more of Stokes after that, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a huge wicket.
Yeah, definitely. That 105 that I was talking about, Shan and Shadab, that was the lead that Pakistan actually amassed overall from the first innings. Yeah. So Pakistan went in with 105 lead. So it was exactly that partnership was the difference between the two first innings. And that's why it was very important. But Pakistan being Pakistan, they collapsed. But it was one of them when the Pakistan second innings. Stuart Broad, Adam, he was absolutely superb. Stokes got 2 crucial wickets, including if I remember right, it was Rizwan while he was settled.
Risen,
It was, yeah, he bowled him, I think it was, and it was Wokes as well. Got a couple of wickets. That was England's finest sort of hour up until then in the Test, I guess.
Yeah, and Stuart Broad obviously coming into the series after everything that had gone on in the West Indies series, being dropped for the first Test and coming back and proving how good he was for the second and third Test. I think he was really in his stride. His confidence was up, and he's one of those players where when England really need him, he'll stand up and get the wickets. And very similar for Stokesy. I think, despite everyone knows he's a superstar, I do still think he's very underrated with the ball. You know, when England are struggling, when they need a wicket, when there's a star man like Babar or a key player who's scoring runs and we need a key wicket, they generally go to Stokesy, and he more often than not delivers. So England did really well to fight back, being 105 deficit from the first innings. And
go on, carry on. Sorry.
I'm just saying, just bringing it back to Pakistan, I'm sure that it's just another one of those moments in this Test match where they feel that if they just gone things slightly differently and they turned the screw a bit on England, it could have been a different result and probably a different series completely.
Yeah, Doctor, as Adam's just pointed out, they could have been different. There was that run-out moment. Rizwan and Asad Shafiq at that point, Pakistan looked very comfortable, didn't they? It just looked like, they will get that 320-odd lead, and that probably will be enough to actually win the Test match.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so there's two passages of play where Pakistan lost this game. Obviously, the third innings and obviously and then the Stokes and the Wokes and Butler partnership. As a fan, I personally get more annoyed when we give the game away as opposed to when the opposition takes the game away from you. So, in my opinion, Wokes and Butler on the final day of the Test match, day 4, they took the game away from us. Wokes is playing, Bradman-like cover drives. Butler is kind of reverse sweeping out of the rough. If you get beaten by a team like that, fair enough. But I think we gave it away in that third innings. And as you mentioned, there's a run out. There's Abid Ali being caught in the deep. There was Shan Masood just tickling one down the leg side. There's a couple of LBWs that went kind of against us. We just didn't play very smart cricket. So obviously a lot of people look back at this game and they'll say Pakistan got it wrong with their bowling in the fourth innings. But again, yeah, we could have done a few things better, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But I don't think that's where we lost the game. I think we gave the game to England in that third innings. And then England being a good Test team and sometimes a very, very good Test team, they're not gonna kind of ask twice. They're going to take that advantage away from you, and they eventually did. So yeah, I think when we look back on this tour, the fact that we lost 1-0 that afternoon where we lost a clatter of wickets, that's the big regret. I think the players and the management will have that was our kind of poor play that gave the game to England. England weren't bowling particularly well. Anderson took 1 wicket in the game. Stokes took 2. I know he's injured as well. Archer did. We didn't make them kind of really fight for those wickets, which was a contrast to the first innings.
Hamza,
if you look at that, if you look at the top 5 or 6 wickets, so you got, I think Azhar was just sort of wafting at one, or was he caught? Oh, no, he was LBW, wasn't he?
He was LBW.
He played across the line to a straight one from Broad, and it was Ian. I think it was Ian Ward who said it, that a batsman in form would have just pinged that onto the leg side, because it wasn't swinging in. It was just a straight ball on leg stump, and he should have just flicked it away, but he played all the way around it. Abid sweeping the Dom Bess, just hit it in the air. Shan down leg side. Shafiq run out. Barber was just wafting at one early on. So, if it was Archer sort of knocking one past your nose and you're sort of fending it, you can sort of accept that kind of stuff. Or, Broad, sort of the one that Archer got with Abid in the first innings, he bowled in between bat and pad. You can accept dismissals like that, but the top 6 dismissals, a good 4 or 5 of them were pretty lax shots. And as Dr. Akbar said, that partnership, which we'll get to, that was just a magnificent bit of batting, actually. You can sort of argue about this field setting and stuff like that, but the bowling wasn't actually that amazing by England. It was just some really poor shots, and England smelt a bit of blood and just went in and just rolled us over for 169.
That's the quality, though, isn't it? Like sometimes when you might not be playing that great and things might be down, but then you see an avenue, and you sort of come straight in. And that's where I think Broad, especially out of the England bowlers, he was exceptional, not just in that part of the phase of the game, but throughout the series, he sort of sniffed opportunities, and he sort of made England, Pakistan pay. But we had that, start the fourth morning. I was still pretty confident. It sort of turned a little bit on the third night, but I was still pretty confident. I was thinking, you know what, if we can get another 20 odd runs, it'll be great. And then like Yasser had this little waft, and we're sitting in 277, very similar to Lord. Was it 2016, Doctor? Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was there. I took my daughters to their first game that day, and it was a very similar target, similar setting. Pakistan sort of bowling, batting for the last couple of wickets, and then England come out. And just a couple of things. Sibley, Root were batting quite well. Because and then Sibley got out 2 for 86. Root gets out 3 for 96. Stokes 406. Pope gets out 117 for 5. I remember at that stage I tweeted it out. I said 270. So I said it was 180 runs or something like that. I said that's a long way away. That got retweeted like mad after the game finished. But Adam, how good was that partnership?
Yeah, it's obviously special. I think last summer we witnessed greatness at Headingley with Stokesy and the Ashes Test match, and I think that not only gives the fans belief that we can do it, but the players obviously no target is unachievable after what happened last year. And I remember Rooty saying after the game that the exact same thing, that the players believed in them more than they'd get the runs. And I think it shows the strength and depth England have got, that if Rooty and Stokes don't get you, Butler will get you, or Wokes will get you, and somebody somewhere will stand up and deliver a game that could potentially be match winning, and they just need someone to go with them. So I was really pleased for Butler. Obviously, he's come under a bit of criticism recently, and that just shows unbelievable mental strength and character when you basically your test match career is on the line and you go out and win a test match like that against all odds. And Wokes as well, who hadn't scored many runs recently, but is a quality batsman. We've got a test match century to his name against India, and it was great to see both of those boys just taking them home, and again win it from nowhere, really.
Adam, it was I was just going to say, Adam, it was interesting. Butler was saying at the end that he was almost playing it like a one-day game, where he wanted to get as close to the target before the new ball, essentially 80 overs, as possible. And it seemed like that really helped. That kind of gave him that kind of clarity, even though he had another whole day of the test, because it was only day 4. They almost kind of weren't thinking of day 5. You could imagine most teams and most players in that situation, you're 5 down for 117, would think, right, let's just eke out as many as we can. Let's get to tomorrow, new day, see what happens. But I guess it just goes to show the mentality of the team, like you're saying, that Butler took it as a one-day game. They were going along at 3.5 and over or something like that until the very end. And I guess does that go back to almost the kind of the Trevor Bayliss kind of influence on England, where no target is unattainable and keep it kind of the runs flowing, as it were?
I think so. It's a mindset, isn't it, as well? The cricket in 2020 is a lot different from 1950s and 1940s. So they reel off all these stats around record run chases and things like that. But it's a different game. The players are much more powerful. They're seeing it like balloons. They're better condition. They're stronger. They're fitter. So they're going to be able to chase bigger totals as the game develops over the years. But yeah, it was interesting what you said about Butler on the build-up to the Australia T20 tonight. They were talking about him and how good a one-day player he is. And on that final day in the first test, he essentially turned it into a one-day game and changed the total. He's the Terminator, as Ian Ward described him as. He'll just go and win it no matter what. So really interesting. It's great to watch as an England fan that they can be so positive and just go for it. And they'll lose games along the way, of course, but it's great to watch.
We're going to quickly move on to the second test. Before I do that, a couple of interesting points you got picked up. When Pope got out for 117 for 5, that was after 44.5 overs. When the next wicket fell, England were 256 for 6 after 77.5. So that was exactly 33 overs, 139 runs, and 4.12 on the run rate. So as you picked up, Doctor, that was they batted with pretty much intent. Yeah, they knew they want to do this before the new ball. They didn't want to wait until new ball. But yeah, Adam, we're going to move on to the second test. But just before we do that, Hulkistan, he says, Adam, after Butler made a few mistakes behind the stumps, do you think he had added pressure in the fourth innings that he was playing to keep his place in the team?
I think it's a bit of both. Probably added pressure. He knew that he was playing for his place, but also when you feel like it's the last chance to do, maybe he just was a bit freer and went out and played his natural game and thought, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to lose my place, I'd rather do it my own way, play my own natural game. So it probably did give him a bit of freedom as well as the added pressure, and he coped with both aspects of that really. And as England fans, we're just absolutely delighted for him because he's a great bloke and he obviously supports the Barmy Army and what we do, and we're really pleased that he's now going from strength to strength again.
Brilliant.
Imi, I've got a quick question. Imi, just for Hamza and yourself, actually, obviously, just as Bucks fans for a second. How much do you think the players might have been almost kind of mentally scarred by that defeat? So again, I was thinking before the series, as a Bucks fan, I'm thinking Archer, Anderson, Stokes, Root. They are probably the 4 England players that I would fear the most in Test cricket. And in that Test match, we kept all 4 of them quiet. None of them really had a match-defining performance. And so you kind of think, well, how the heck did we lose that game? Do you think that will, Hamza, do you reckon that will affect the players, or that did affect the players almost? Where did we lose a game to, players like Wokes, with no disrespect, obviously?
Yeah. The last time I was so disappointed in a Test match performance was, I don't know if you guys, which Test was it in Australia? The 2010 series where
Sydney.
Yeah, we were chasing like Sydney. Was it Sydney? We're chasing like 170.
176.
Yeah, so that was the first Test. We're all over Australia. Got to chase 170 or 190 to win, and end up getting whatever 120 all out. And as a fan, when you feel so deflated, the players must feel that as well. And now that was the second Test, actually. That would have made it 1-1 if we won that. And we would have had lots of momentum going into the third. We lost that and got wiped out in the third Test as well. So if you're a fan and you're so deflated, players are exactly the same. They would have been so deflated after that first Test match. To be fair, you're quite young, but we'll see.
Talking about Sydney, please. I stayed up all night that day. Adam probably knows. Staying up all night to watch the game in Australia, and then it goes all pear-shaped, just the worst feeling. And that game was in. So, yeah, the second Test, I'm going to quickly just cover it all by myself because nothing really happened. Pakistan sort of batted first, 236. Rizwan, that's probably the only thing that really did happen. Rizwan had a very good fighting innings, and he sort of made his mark on the team. Because after the first Test, some people still said that, despite him getting 29 in the second innings, he sort of bottled it, shall we say. And so he sort of proved his doubters wrong. Abid got 60, and after his shots in the first game, that was welcome. And again, Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson was superb. Stuart Broad was fantastic all through this series. And then there was loads of rain, absolutely loads and loads of rain, loads of bad light. And then England come out and 110 for 4. Crawley got 53, Sibley 32, Abbas got 2 for 38. The wicket had seemed to flatten out by day 5 as well. The sun was out. And obviously motivation as well. I mean, if I'm bowling on day 5 knowing there's absolutely nothing to play for, I'm not going to run in. I don't run in anyhow. So that's the thing. So that was that. Interestingly enough, Crawley got 53. He didn't play the first Test, didn't he? He didn't play the first Test because Stokes. He replaced Stokes.
He came in for Stokes.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, he played the next game though.
Imi, quick question if that's okay. Just for Adam on, because in the second Test, England made a change. I went out and Curran came in. it seems like every time, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, every time Archer comes on to bowl, straight away the commentators will talk about speed, and I don't see that for any other bowler that kind of plays for England. It's almost like a Stani obsession with speed that we have as fans. We're always worried about how quick our bowlers are bowling. What do you think that's kind of affecting Archer a little bit? He doesn't quite seem the same player, and why does he get this kind? Why is this obsession with speed kind of only with him and not seemingly with other bowlers?
Yeah, it is interesting. I picked up on that as well. I think England fans, pundits, and the team have got an obsession now with going to Australia and winning back the Ashes. So as far as I can see, a lot of the preparation around the team and the selections is gearing up for that series. So we know you can't win in Australia really without raw pace. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of Wood, a lot of Archer in the build-up. Obviously not so much Wood in this series, but and I think there's a lot of pressure on Archer to deliver raw speed, which, like you say, I think is affecting him. I think he can bowl. You see it in the World Cup. You see when he plays the white ball format of the game, his strength is his variation and what he can do in different scenarios rather than just steaming in and bowling raw pace. So it is an interesting one. He's a brilliant bowler. I think he's still very underrated. People don't really appreciate how much he's achieved already because, like you say, people just look at the speedometer and expect it to be 95 miles an hour. But I think he's going to be a fantastic player for England, and we'll just keep supporting him. And I'm sure he'll do the business for us in Australia next year when it really counts.
Mm-hmm. Just going to go to third test, and like comments have started coming in, and literally everyone's like asking Adam questions. Like no one's interested in you boys today. It don't exist. So in the third test, as I just mentioned, Crawley got 53, and then coming to the third test, we're thinking we need a draw. We need a win to draw the series, and England literally batted us out the game. Crawley got 267. Hamza, before I go to Adam and Doctor, what did you find of? What did you make of Crawley?
Yeah, it was a really solid innings. He's got an odd technique. He's quite a tall guy, so he sort of crouches over a little bit. It's interesting, sort of Crawley and Pope have come along at the right time because the last couple of years there's been a real problem with England's batting. It's relying heavily on Joe Root, and sort of his average has sort of gone down to sort of 48 now because his sort of last couple of years he's struggled a bit under the captaincy. Although he's actually still done all right, but his numbers ain't as good as they were previously because his numbers were superb before, and they're sort of just very good now. So it's obviously going to help him having Crawley and Pope sort of in the top six. And interesting what sort of Dr. Akbar was saying earlier about Pope. He just sort of looks like a sort of clone of Ian Bell. I think he looks even better than Ian Bell because Bell earlier, there's a thing about Bell sort of reminded me of Asad Shafiq a little bit. He just felt he could lose his wicket now and then, whereas Pope, every time I looked at him, he just looked absolutely solid as a rock. So I know you asked me about Crawley, but I've been even more impressed by Pope. If I could have either one of them, I'd have Pope. I'd actually have Pope. I think he's got a much more solid technique. But I still like Crawley. I mean, that was an excellent innings. Anytime you get 250 against a full-on test team, that's magnificent. But if I could have one of them, I'd have Pope. Actually, he looks absolutely solid.
Mm-hmm. It could be Adam long term that well, not long term, shall we say, the immediate short future, the way the England batting lineup is, and with Butler performing, Joe Root, the openers, because none of these two are openers, and there's Stokes to come in as well. It could be a choice between one or the other, couldn't it?
Could be. I think Crawley's batted in most positions already in his short career. I think he opened in one series, then he was at 3, then he was at 4, then he was in the middle order, then he got dropped for a bit. And I think that he's had a bit of a rough ride, really, for someone that has performed since his debut to be moved around the order so much. Hopefully now he's found his place there. And to come in and perform like that when, like I said, you've been moved around so much and just really basically nail down and cement your shirt, it was phenomenal. He didn't look at any point like he was going to get out in that innings, and that is incredible, really, to bat for so long and just make it look so easy and so comfortable against what is a quality Pakistan bowling attack. But it just showed that if you can bat for time, what you can do to the bowlers in terms of their morale, their exhaustion. The Pakistan bowling attack just looked like they didn't want to be there. And that says a lot for a young player to grind down a bowling attack like that. And it was really good to watch. And he's exciting, Pope's exciting. I think they'll both be in the team for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, so 583. We haven't even talk about Butler, and he got a 150.
It's funny because we had England 127 for 4, but this feels like less of a missed opportunity than the 117 for 5 in that first test, where obviously they went on to win it. And I think the reason why it feels like a less of a missed opportunity at 127 for 4 is that pitch was seriously flat, and the ball wasn't doing anything. And not to take anything away, obviously, from 2 brilliant innings, but that felt like, I mean, if any kind of decent batting lineup, batting without pressure and making first use of the conditions on that pitch, I think most teams would be looking at 400 plus. But yeah, sorry, go on. You were saying.
Yeah, no, I was just looking at the England scorecard just now, and from what that I make, it's like Milan and Butler got 100 out of the 162 England made. So the rest of them really ended up the game there. It was a bit touch and go score, shall we say? Though I think it's on par for the Aegis Bowl. What they were saying on TMS when I was driving home. So yeah, 583 for 8. I mean, Pakistan weren't in the game anymore. At best, they can draw the game. A bit of rain as well did come. Right, they got 273 in the first innings. Hamza Ali, he struggled for the whole series. He really did. Do you think this is something that Doctor picked up when we done the show on that particular day? Do you think that maybe he thought to himself, as what Adam's just said about Butler as well, this is last chance saloon. I'm probably going to lose my captaincy anyhow after this. So you know what? I'm just going to go out there and bat freely.
Yeah, I mean, we were discussing that ourselves, sort of in the verdict and sort of in our WhatsApp groups. That, you know what, Azhar just looks shot. He doesn't know where his off stump is. He's falling over. He's getting his left foot across way too much. He's missing balls that he should be just be pinging away for 4. And you've got to give him lots of credit for fighting back and making that. What did he make? 141. And he actually looked quite solid all the way through. I don't remember him being dropped. Akbar usually good with this stuff. Did he get dropped? I don't remember him.
I don't remember him being dropped. I remember him looking a bit scratchy. But I was just going to make the very quick point, probably like you're alluding to, that he fought through it, and that's the point I made on the verdict. Whereas Asad Shafiq was getting out within about 20-25 balls. Even when he was getting his low scores, he was still sticking around. He was still spending a bit of time at the crease. And obviously that then came to, it kind of bore fruit at the end, like you're saying, with that 140, where he then obviously was at the crease for a very long time. But you're right, it was pretty chanceless.
Yeah. And you're saying he looked a bit scratchy early on. To be fair, Azhar Ali, even when he makes the 100, he looks a bit scratchy. It's just his technique. It's just the way he sort of backs. It's a bit like Alistair Cook, really. He never looks 100% in, but he still makes the run. So yeah, lots of credit to Azhar. He sort of battled his one. He might have saved his captaincy for another couple of series with that.
Mm-hmm. Adam, we're going to move on to Jimmy Anderson. Before we go to that magic number, he got 5 for 56, rolled back the years. Hulkistan again, he's asking, do you think Anderson will tour again? If not, will England keep him for home series only to manage his workload? Where do you see Anderson going forward?
I mean, if you were to ask him that question, I think he'd be fuming, because I think he sees himself still as one of the fittest, most professional players. Obviously, he's had a few niggles recently, but all players get that no matter what age. And he's proved again in this summer that he's basically the greatest bowler of all time, any country. And he's, I'm sure, going to be around for the Ashes series next winter. Even when he wants to finish, he'll want to finish on a high. I don't think he'll want to finish in front of empty stadiums. And I do think he'll want to finish it on the big stage, which, of course, is the Ashes. So, yeah, I'm confident he'll tour again. And I'm confident that he'll be doing the business for another year or two at least.
Mm-hmm. At times in that first innings, he looked unplayable. He looked completely unplayable.
he got, was it a fifer? But how many drop catches? I mean, 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah, 4, I think.
That's the clinic that we're going to go into now. Yeah, just on Pakistani perspective, Babar Azam getting some runs again, which was good to see because he got a 69 the first game. I think he got a 40-yard in between, and then he got his 63 not out, and he looked a bit more back in touch again. But then Anderson got 2 more, and that second one, that was the big one. We've covered it as a Pakistan fan, but as an England fan, how much does that mean to you guys?
Yeah, it's special, obviously for Jimmy, but it's just great to have been there for so many of those wickets and just to have seen him develop into the greatest bowler of all time. He's England's greatest bowler of all time by a mile. He's the only fast bowler to have reached 600 wickets, and I couldn't believe the stats. I think he's the second fastest to 600 wickets, I think, in terms of deliveries bowled, behind Murali, which is absolutely phenomenal for a fast bowler to sustain those levels for such a long period of time all around the world, in England when the ball's swinging, but overseas. I actually remember a spell that I saw him bowl in Barbados a couple of years ago where England got thrashed in the test match, but Jimmy bowled, I think, 19 overs for about 16 runs, and just in 30-degree heat, just bowling in, line length, so consistent, model professional, and he's just a class act, and we've been so lucky to have been able to enjoy all of his success, really.
Adam, do you think Archer might? Sorry, just go back to Archer quickly. You know how Anderson and Broad couldn't come to the fore until Harmison and Hoggard kind of were. I think they were dropped for a game in New Zealand a good 10, 12 years ago now. Do you think maybe Archer will become kind of leader of the pack, and it'll be Archer and Wood maybe, or or Ollie Stone, I guess,
or something like that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, do you think they'll when Anderson and Broad move on?
Yeah, I think it's potentially moving into a different direction where England have got so many options that they will rotate the bowlers a lot more and pick for the conditions rather than always having the standard 2 or 3 seamers that are guaranteed their place in the team. I think Broad and Anderson are a once-in-a-generation pair, really, and I don't think for a long time you're going to see a pair bowling tandem so regularly. So England are lucky to have, obviously, Mark Wood, Jofra Archer. Chris Wokes should be the first name on the team sheet for me every single time we play. He's just absolutely brilliant cricketer. You've got Ollie Stone coming in. You've got a plethora of young bowlers that are putting pressure on. So, yeah, Archer, we're pinning a lot of focus on Archer, but we've got so many options that it doesn't affect our long-term ambition, I don't think, if Archer doesn't get 600 wickets in the next decade.
It's going to be a hard little feat. Hamza, Anderson, just quickly in just 1 minute, because I want to move on because we've got things to do, and we've only got maximum 20 minutes. How high do you rate him amongst the greatest pacers? Amongst all the great pacers that we've seen, say in our era, from the early 90s, late 80s onwards.
The thing is, it depends on how you look at it. So, by the way, I do think he'll go to the Ashes. There's no way he's not going to go. And they'll do horses for courses. They won't play him at what was it? I remember a couple of years ago in Adelaide, I think, where they played a day-night and he was swinging it around crazy. So there's no way they're not going to take him. They won't play him at Brisbane or something, which is dead flat. MCG, they won't play him there. So they'll pick him for the right occasion, basically. So overall, I mean, you can't argue with 600 wickets. There's obviously when you sort of compare players, you do with cricket, especially with bowling. You always do things like, okay, what's he like outside of his own conditions? That's obviously an interesting debate. Now, I mean, I wouldn't put Anderson at the same level as like a Wasim Akram or so even McGrath, basically because if you look at the numbers in and out of Asia, it's pretty much the same. So if you look at McGrath's average and strike rate in England and Australia is actually very similar to his strike rate and average in Asia, which is quite amazing because it's usually only actually Pakistani cricketers that are like that. If you look at sort of Wasim, Waqar, Shoaib Akhtar, Imran Khan, if you look at the stats in Asia and out of Asia, it's very similar. Whereas if you look at sort of Anderson's stats in Asia, out of Asia, there's a difference. But when you, as someone who's got control with a new ball, there's just no doubt. You wouldn't pick anyone else. Maybe sort of Ambrose and Walsh come to mind. In English conditions, would you rather have Broad and Anderson or Ambrose and Walsh? I don't know, Wasim and Waqar, but definitely in English conditions, with the new ball, you just can't beat him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, definitely in the top 10 that I've seen. So I have him in anyhow, but it just depends what you're looking at. I mean, as you said, conditions. What do you like? I grew up watching Waqar Wasim as a kid, and all I ever wanted to do was run up from 50 yards out and try to bowl fast. That's a different case that I used to get tired after running 10 yards. That was a different case.
I think the thing with Anderson is the longevity. So if you kind of just compare it to football for a second, so Ryan Giggs is probably not the most talented player, or probably even the best player as a United fan that Man United have ever had. But his sheer longevity to play from 1991 or so to 2014, I think he retired. That kind of scores him a few more points than say certain players who might be good for a while. Now Wasim and Waqar were good for a very long time, but no one's, in terms of pace bowlers, no one's quite had that longevity that Anderson has. So that, I guess, what he maybe lacks in explosiveness and stump shattering kind of Yorkers that get us all on the edge of our seats, he makes up for, and just being brilliant season after season after season after season. And that's why we could debate this thing. Anyone could debate this thing.
Everyone can have their own opinion, have their own reasons. Just look at the stats then. I'm going to briefly go through them, and then we're going to pick up on the last couple of things straight at the end. Just the stats. England batting, Crawley got 320 runs at 116. And it only played two out of tests, and one of them was curtailed as well. So top scorer in the whole series for both teams. Butler, 265 at 88. So again, fantastic. You had this little point where, I mean, everyone, fans, the commentators, everyone was thinking that he's going to get dropped because his keeping wasn't the greatest at that point. But then, he turned that whole series around. And Woke's 143 runs at 71, including the innings that probably turned the whole series into a victory. And Root, surprisingly, had a poor series. He would have been along with Stokes, two that I would have picked up the series and said we need them early. We sort of kept them quite quiet at 94 runs at 31. So that's England's stats. It's a bit curtailed because you've only really got England had one innings in the third test, two innings in the first test, and they only had that half an innings in the second test. So overall, they only really batted 3.5 innings. So in 3 tests, which is not a lot. But the bowling, Stuart Broad, I've mentioned it a couple of times now. Fantastic, 13 wickets at 16, looked unplayable at times. Anderson got 11 at 23, including 7 in the last test. And Woke, 6 wickets at 27. Archer, 4 wickets at 39. I thought we played Archer quite well. Though Broad, Anderson and Woke are sort of the type of bowlers that trouble us more. Because the one thing that we do not like, our batsmen, is seam and swing. And so that was that.
Just a quick question, just before we move on to the Pakistan one, just a quick question for Adam. Obviously, as an England fan, they don't lose many series at home. So I think 2012 or something was the last time, or 2013 or something was when they last lost. And yet, before this series, Pakistan had been here twice and got 2 draws, and actually played quite well in both series. As an England fan, when you're when you know Pakistan are coming, what kind of do you expect, and how confident are you to beat a team like Pakistan? It'd be interesting to see an English, obviously a kind of an England fan's view on our team, as it were.
Yeah, Well, personally, after the West Indies series, I was expecting a tougher test from Pakistan. I thought England got through that West Indies series quite well. It was a brilliant series, and West Indies were brilliant, but England did very well to come back from after losing the first test. And then I was expecting a really tough test from the Pakistan series. Obviously, it's very different to come over in the bubble and play in front of no crowds. And I think if there was Pakistan fans inside the stadium and they had the buzz and were able to sort of ride the flow of the fans as and when they're on top, it could have been very different. And again, like we talked about that first test, Pakistan were on top so often and didn't quite turn the screw that England could have been 1-0 down again, and it could have been a very different series. So, yeah, I always get excited when Pakistan tour England. And after that first day or the first couple of days when we saw the bowling attack and we saw Yasir Shah and how dangerous he was, and Naseem and the pace and the power of their opening attack, it was really evident that it was going to be a really tough test. So I'm, delighted that England came through it just about.
Mm-hmm. I've got a couple of more questions after this one. This is just a comment, really, so I'm going to put this up, and I'll fire the last questions at the end. Dropping Broad for the first test against the West Indies, did it fire him in? Yeah, that probably made a massive difference on Broad, because getting dropped, he didn't take that. He was quite vocal about it as well, so it probably did fire him up. And it probably helped England against us here. But yeah, Pakistan's batting surprisingly, after all the criticism he got, he finished as our top run scorer at 210 at 52. Babar 195 at 49. Shan 179 at 43, and then Rizwan 161 at 40. So there's a few Pakistanis that had some runs, but there was no one who really had a superb series like Crawley and Butler ended up having, and Wokes. So all three were higher. So that was the thing. This is the most surprising stat for me, and this is where the series was won and lost. Pakistan's bowling. We're associated with pace, and we sort of we pride ourselves with our pace bowling, literally every time. Yasir got 11 at 33, Abbas 5 at 36, Shaheen 5 at 52. Hamza, you said this morning they bowl better than that. The stats don't really cover how well they bowled, but in the end, the returns weren't great, were they?
No, but sometimes you need context with stats. I'm a big stats man. I love looking at averages and strike rates. What's this person's average in India, in Asian conditions? What's the average in the CENA countries, South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia? But you have to contextualize all of it. Now, let's just imagine the first test went the other way. So let's just say we got Butler out early. He just lobbed one to the keeper or something, and we won that first test. But everything else went exactly as it did in the second and third. Afridi's numbers will still be bad. England would still got 500 in the third test. And, Abbas would still got 5 wickets at 36, but no one would care about that. And we would have actually said, outside of that one innings, where it was basically one partnership, it's basically Crawley and Butler. That whole 500 innings was one partnership. So those numbers are a little bit, so those numbers are quite skewed. Remember, it's quite a truncated series as well, because the second test was sort of pretty much a washout. So all of those numbers, it's a bit like a batsman who sort of suddenly turned up and made a 100, and they've got an average of 210 or something. This ain't the new Bradman. So Afridi's got 5 wickets at 50. He's not Mohammed Sami. He's not that. He bowled a lot better than that. And and as we said, that sort of third test, the pitch on day one, that's the best batting track anyone has had a go at in the 3 tests. So I don't think the bowlers bowled as badly as those numbers suggest.
Mm-hmm. I've made an 11. I'll do my 11. We'll debate it for 2-3 minutes. We'll take the last few questions before we finish. My 11. feel free to disagree. I had a 5-6 combination. I know, Doctor, you've made one as well, you said. But I've got Sean and I've got Azir. I've got Crawley at 3, Barber at 4, Butler at 5, Rizwan as my keeper at 6, Wokes at 7, Yasser at 8, Archer, Broad, and Anderson. That's what I've gone with. Reason why, I thought Sibley and Burns had a very poor series. But Sibley, top score was 36. So he made a few starts, but never really kicked on. So I thought I needed Sean's. That one inning probably enough for him to get in. As I thought in that third innings, I think he done enough for me to actually promote him for 3-2 as an opener. Probably no-brainer. I thought Bobbert had a better series than Root. Though I was tempted to put in Root as a captain, but I've gone in with no captain, and I've just said, like, no, Bobbert had a better series. I'm going to put Bobbert in. Butler, I couldn't have him as a wicket keeper because I thought he made a few bad errors. And as you know, we've discussed this through the whole series where I've said, you've got to be a better keeper. You're a keeper first and a batsman second. That's why I've got Rizwan as the keeper, because I think Rizwan actually batted well and kept well. And then Wokes, my man of the series, superb. I thought bat, ball, everything. Wokes turned up every single time. Yasser got 11 wickets. I think he was better than Dom Bess. And then I don't think, because of the numbers, I thought Archer, Broad, and Anderson get in. The only one I was contemplating was Archer, and I was thinking, do I just put an extra batsman in now, and just keep the 4 bowlers? But I've gone with that. Adam, any changes that you would make?
Maybe a couple. I don't think you can not have Joe Root in there just for his captaincy. He's a brilliant captain, and the stats are starting to back that up now. He did have a couple of starts in this series, a couple of important knocks. A 40-yard, I think it was.
He's got a couple of really good balls.
Yeah, and he's a world-class batsman. Sibley potentially, I know he didn't go big in this series, but I think Test cricket you probably need to have someone that's going to bat for time. And I know Shan Masood had 1 knock, but to me, he looked like a walking wicket all series. Rizwan, definitely a brilliant keeper. And for me, he was Pakistan's man of the series. He was superb with the bat when he got going and looked really good behind the stump. So can't disagree with that. And obviously the series Butler and Wokes had, they've both got to find a place in the team somehow. And I agree as well with your bowling attack. I really enjoyed watching Yasser Shah bowl. Really exciting. Reminds me a lot of Shane Warne, which England fans probably won't like that much, that I'm excited by watching a leggy like Shane Warne, but he's brilliant, a bit of a hitter, and supplemented the quicks really well. So not far off, but I probably have a couple more England players being biased.
Doctor?
Yeah, almost the same. I would probably put Abbas in, if only for that 1 ball to Stokes, but also just generally, I thought Abbas actually was a little bit unlucky. There were a lot of things going past the edge. I think he probably bowled better than Archer. I really like Jofra Archer, but I'd probably just have Abbas in there ahead of Archer. And I think did you have as an opening? I'm not sure. I might just because it was his first tour over here, and because personally I thought Abid would really struggle. I'd probably maybe just put Abid Ali there instead of Azad, or maybe Sibley, as Adam's kind of alluded to. You can kind of take it or leave it between those two. But otherwise, yeah, similar team. I wouldn't have Root, but then I don't know who captains that team. Give it Rizwan for a laugh, see what happens. But
do the Pakistan job, like having 11 captains. Why not? Hamza, just 1 minute, and then because we've got a couple of questions, I want to finish it off.
Yeah. It's funny how both teams have got 4 openers that are just really struggling in these conditions. Coming into the series, Shan and Abid made a pack of runs back home, but it's totally different conditions batting in Pakistan and UAE than it is in England, and they look so solid out there. But as Adam says, sort of after the 150, Shan just sort of, I don't know, he was just playing across it was like sort of the old Shan again, where he was just he just missed any ball that was just swinging into his pads, and they were just LBW candidate all the way through. So I wouldn't have played Archer. I would have played Abbas personally. I thought he bowled really well. On another day, he would have got loads of wickets.
You know what?
Go on, what are you saying?
Yeah, no, go on, carry on.
No, I was saying I wouldn't have played Root. He didn't make enough runs. He's a world-class batsman, but you're just basing it on what you're seeing. So I wouldn't have played Root. I like that Wokes. I've always liked Wokes. There's just something about him. He's a trier, very good bowler, bats well, excellent fielder. So I'm glad I'll definitely play Wokes. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with that team. I might have played Pope somewhere. I just really like watching him bat. He's got a lovely technique. So I probably would have somehow squeezed Pope in there somewhere, just for his potential, really.
Yeah, he missed a game as well, didn't he, towards the end? Yeah. So that's another thing. I know you said about Sean. I'm just going to quickly put one point. I mean, there's no disrespect to getting out to Jimmy Anderson. No. I mean, 600 people have, and Jimmy's got one over him. But in this team, he'll probably score a lot of runs because guess what? Jimmy won't be bowling to him. Jimmy will be playing with him. So
yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
A couple of questions, and we're going to finish it off. And I think they're both for Adam. So, first of all, someone asks, if England tour Pakistan next year, will the Barmy Army be travelling to? Would you be interested in travelling to Pakistan?
Definitely. There's real excitement amongst the touring England fans that can get back to Pakistan again. How long has it been? Over 10 years now?
2005, last one.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that are genuinely chomping at the bit to get back out there. People, Barmy Army members, obviously loyal. They go all around the world watching cricket, and they like to tick off the places and the different grounds. And there's a lot of appetite from England fans to get back to Pakistan. So if security allows and the ECB allow, we'll definitely be going. And I personally, having not been before, would be really excited about it and can't wait, really.
Yeah, I think we were discussing earlier, weren't we, Hamza? And we were just saying that that's one series that we will travel out to.
Yeah, definitely.
You can call it Barmy Army package.
Yeah, we'll be definitely travelling out to So yeah, definitely. And there's, I think, a couple of more questions. There's another one's just arrived. I'm going to read that one anyhow. But again, it's for Adam again. Yamin asks, who impressed you most in the Pakistani lineup?
Probably three players stand out for me. I think Baba just looks class, looks brilliant, and he's obviously he's already cementing himself as one of the best in the world and will go on to have a brilliant career. The wicket keeper, like I said, I really liked him. Rizwan, he was loud behind the stumps, but also really tidy, really accurate with everything he did, and he sort of set the standards for Pakistan in the field. And Yasir Shah, I just think he's a good character, and I just like leg spin bowlers. They offer something different, and he had some of the England batsmen in a lot of trouble quite a lot. So probably those three for me.
Imi, I've just got a very quick question again, just well, for anyone, but I guess mainly for the Pakistan fans here. Just
let me just touch Shakib. He's asking about Babar and long innings. You know what? This is a debate for another day. We will cover it, but maybe in the next show. But yeah, we'll cover that another time. Go on, Doctor.
So I was going to quickly say, so it's been since everyone talks about it's been a while since Pakistan won in England. So we haven't won in England since '96. So that's no wins in England since '96. We've never won in Australia. We've never won in South Africa. India have managed it. Sri Lanka have managed it a couple of times. What do we need to change so that we don't, in 5 years' time, when we come here again and don't win again, or the next Australia tour or the next South Africa tour, and we can't just say it's Asian teams because other Asian teams are winning. What can we do to change our fortunes out there? Because we can't just keep losing away from home against Australia, South Africa, England, because that's the way it has been now for 25 years nearly.
One of the biggest things I pick up on, and I think I would agree, the shortage of under 19 and 18 tours. We really need to up our game with that, because a lot of our players, they come on the first time they come in England, or they go to Australia, or go to South Africa, or New Zealand, or anywhere else in the world. It's the first time when they come with the international teams, the first time they played on them surfaces. So that doesn't help. So that's one of the things.
Bowlers. I mean, our bowling often seems to let us down when we don't expect it to in these conditions.
Yeah, in Australia, as Adam said earlier, in Australia you need those genuine quicks. And the last couple of times we've gone down, we haven't actually gone down with proper quicks. But even still, we've come close. 2016 was 2-2, 2018 1-1, and both times it was the batting that sort of let us down in crucial moments. Actually, 2016 was another. We need to have another talk about that. That was an amazing series that ended 2-2. But 2018, two-test series, won the first one, second one the batting let us down. In Australia, 2010, we could have won that series, the batting let us down. So yeah, you need the sort of Eunices and Inzamams and the Misbahs to make runs out there.
You guys are going to be fun at parties. Right at the end, Jay, you've got all the doom and gloom. So that's done. Thank you guys for joining. Adam, really, really appreciate it, mate.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Hamza, thank you.
Cheers, boys.
Doctor, I think we're going to take at least a week off here because otherwise I might not have a home to live in. My wife is absolutely furious. Yeah, this is happening every day right now.
I'll go and see some patients as well once in a while.
Okay, so yeah, we will cover other subjects as and when we go along. As I said, I appreciate you guys joining, and I appreciate everyone else who's watching and will probably go on to watch later on because there's a cricket game going on right now. So hence, a lot of people are actually watching that. I'm actually looking forward to our next series whenever that happens, and the same with England series whenever the next one happens. Apart from the T20s happening now, we don't know when the next series are, but whenever they are, we'll be watching them. And best of luck, guys.
They're going to go to the Emirates and smash India, I think. So let's hope.
We've been right behind England for that one. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Adam, again. And as I always say at the